All right, this is going to be a review of 2-4 part 1, how to write the equation of a line given different information. So we're going to start off if you are given the slope and the y-intercept. Now, the slope is our m value, and the y-intercept is that b value, which is always going to be an ordered pair of 0, b. So if you're given the slope of 1/2, I want to remind you that that is m equals 1/2. And you're given the y-intercept of -3, that is the same as saying b equals -3. When I go to write my equation, and we're going to write them in slope-intercept form, it is going to be y equals my slope of 1/2 times x minus 3 or plus a -3. And that's all you have to do. So we're putting these in slope-intercept form. So when I'm doing slope-intercept form, I need the m and I need the b. So I had both pieces of information, I plug it in, I'm all done. Okay, if I'm given a graph, I could pull 2 ordered pairs from it, but I would actually just like to count the rise and the run. So I need m and I need b. I like to do b first because it's pretty quick. I just look at it. B is, again, -3. Okay, now let's count the slope. And when you go to count your slope, you need to make sure that you're looking accurately at the graph. I don't want to use a point that's off. I want to go from one to the other. So it looks like I have a rise of 1 and a run of 2. So we have the same slope, the same y-intercept. We're going to have that line y equals 1/2 x minus 3. So we're getting the same equation because we have the same information, but we're getting the information differently. I should know that it's a positive line or positive slope because it's going uphill. If you went from here to here, you would have gone up 2 and over 4, which reduces to 1/2. You always want your slope as a fraction, improper or proper, no decimals, no mixed numbers. Okay, now this is a little different. This is where we start stepping it up. This one is giving me a slope and a point. Okay, so I've got some information. So knowing that my slope is 1/2, I'm going to write that down as m equals 1/2. I'm going to copy down my ordered pair, but I'm going to label it as x and y. Now, for this problem, I'm going to use slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. And I can do it that way. So here's all I need to do, guys. I need to plug in everything I know. I have m, I need b. So I'm going to use this 4, -1 as an anchor point. So I want you to think about it. When we were graphing, and I said graph given this, you would take that point and plot it here, and then you would do your slope up and over or down and left. And so this is your anchor point. Well, we're going to do that anchor point algebraically. So put the -1 in for y, put the slope in as 1/2, put the x in as 4, and what I don't know is b. So I'm using slope-intercept form to solve this. -1 equals 2 plus b. I'm then going to subtract 2, and I get that b is -3. So I've got my y-intercept. I had my slope, and so the equation of my line, again, is y equals 1/2 x minus 3. So you can see we're working with the same information, but we're given in different forms. Okay, now, just for good measure, I'm going to do this problem using point slope, because remember I told you you can use either method, right? So I'm done. I don't have to do this. However, I think it'd be good to practice. So do you remember your point slope form? Point slope. That is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So if you wanted to do it in point slope, you have m still as 1/2, and you have that ordered pair of 4, -1. This is like your x1, y1. So if I'm doing it in point slope, I'm going to plug in y minus a -1 equals m of 1/2 times x minus 4. Okay, so all I did was I plugged in the y1, x1, and the m. Negatives are going to cancel out there. I'm going to distribute. I get y plus 1 equals 1/2 x minus 2. and then I solve for y by subtracting the 1, I get y equals 1/2 x minus 3. So you can see that I can do this using point slope or slope intercept form. I get the same equation. Now, if you're told to put your equation in point slope form, this would have been it. You would have cleaned up your negative signs and left it just like that. Okay, this is the last step. When you're given only 2 points, you have to do a little more work. So if I'm only giving 2 points, this is your x1, y1, and this is your x2, y2. It doesn't matter which method I use. Both methods require me to find the slope. So do you remember your slope formula? y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I always need slope and y-intercept. How I find the slope is what varies. And so the next lesson will be about parallel and perpendicular lines. And so again, it's what we do to find the slope that helps us. All right, so let's plug it in. I'm going to take my y -2 minus a -4. So y's over x's, what's your negative signs? And I'm going to take my 2 minus a -2. And again, the order doesn't matter as long as you're consistent. I started with -2 minus -4, x minus x. Okay, these negatives are going to cancel and leave me 2. These are going to cancel and leave me 4. So my final slope is 1/2. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and go with slope intercept form. So I have y equals mx plus b. We know m, we need b. So you need 2 points to find your slope. But then I need 1 point, and I'm just going to pick the -2, -4. And you could pick either. I just need 1 point to fill in. Okay? If someone else picked 2, -2, we'll get the same final answer once we clean it up. So here's my x, here's my y. -4 equals 1/2 x, which is -2, plus b. So -4 equals -1 plus b. Add 1. And I get that b equals -3. Okay, so there's my y-intercept. There's my slope. And I get that same equation. Y equals 1/2 x minus 3. So they basically worked with one equation and gave you information on different forms. Does anybody want me to do it with point slope, or you're happy with this? Okay, I want to add one thing onto the back. This is a little bit different. So add one thing onto the back for me. So there's a problem in the textbook that we didn't do. And it's number 26 out of the textbook, just in case you want it as a reference. And it's on page 120. And so what it tells you is it says, write a linear function, given this information. So write a linear function f of x, where f of 3 equals 3, and f of -1 equals 4. Okay, let me give you a second to write that. Write a linear function where so we want f of x. So write a linear function f of x where f of 3 is 3 and f of -1 is 4. And this is one that I normally assign, and then no one knows how to do it. Okay, well, what is f of x the same as? F of x is the same as y equals, right? So instead of y equals mx plus b, because it's a linear function, we're going to make it f of x equals mx plus b. Now that's just fine, but I just got done telling you, you need m and you need b. In order to find m, you need 2 ordered pairs. And they didn't officially give you ordered pairs. But guys, I need you to go back to all the times we talked about function notation. And if you would go back to your notes when we introduced the functions and function notations, you see exactly what this is. What does this 3 represent in the parentheses? It's f of x, isn't it? So isn't that 3 the x value? And what is f of x the same as? It's the same as y. So whatever this function equals, that's the y value. So do you see that the 3 is the input and the 3 is the output, that you really were given ordered pairs. So think about f of negative 1 equals 4. If you put negative 1 into this function, you'll get out 4. This is your x value, this is your y. So do you see that they gave you ordered pairs in function form? Okay, so if I'm asked to write a linear function, we need to use our ordered pairs to find the slope. So that's not new. Find your slope, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And that would be 4 minus 3 over negative 1 minus 3. So I get 1 over negative 4. So my slope is negative 1/4. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pick one of the ordered pairs. I'm going to pick 3, 3. And then from here, I'm going to write my equation. I'm going to go ahead and plug it in. So this is x and y. The y is 3, which equals my slope times x plus b. Now we do have, fractions we have to deal with, and that's okay. My rule on fractions, if you can't beat them, join them. So I'm going to have a negative 3 over 4. You just multiply the tops and the bottoms plus b. And then I'm going to solve it by adding 3/4 over. If you need to use your calculator, you can, but I think it's great to use our brains. I get 3 3/4. And if you remember how to make that mixed number an improper fraction, you take 3 times 4, which is 12, plus 3. So you would get 15/4. I don't care what form your y-intercept is in. You might have it as 3.75. But I do care that your slope is a fraction. So what is my equation? Y equals negative 1/4 x plus 15/4. But they asked you to put it as a function, so instead of saying y equals, we would say f of x equals negative 1/4 x plus 15/4. Or you might have that as 3 3/4. Okay, again, I use y equals mx plus b. You could have used point slope. But my big thing is taking something that you thought was different and knowing that this was function notation that transfers these ordered pairs. And I think once you saw that, I'm hoping you remembered that we had talked about that before.